Si sientes que tu inglés suena así, en este video te mostraremos cómo mejorar tu nivel de inglés para que suene así.
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
El idioma inglés es un idioma muy importante en este tiempo. Y la universidad a la que fui, el trabajo que conseguí, inclusive la esposa que tengo y muchas otras cosas más que he logrado hasta ahora han sido en gran parte porque pude aprender inglés y pude disfrutar de esas oportunidades, especialmente aquí en Estados Unidos. Yo quiero que tú también puedas aprovechar esas oportunidades y puedas también escribir tu historia. Así que hoy voy a compartir con ustedes algunos métodos y algunos recursos que hemos usado para poder mejorar nuestro idioma inglés. Y hablaremos acerca de recursos para nivel básico y nivel intermedio. Para esto, hoy tengo conmigo mi esposa y ella va a ayudarnos a compartir cuáles fueron los recursos que uso para poder mejorar tu inglés. So, say hi.
Hola, hola.
So, let's talk a little bit about what resources do you use to learn English, especially if you are someone in the level that is very basic. What would you recommend?
I would turn the time back to maybe when I was 10 or 11 years old. If I choose top 3 tools that help me, I think number 1 is from listening's perspective, it will be songs. And I actually wasn't listening to like kids song, which probably many people would suggest. I just straight went to the adult songs. I remember the first band I fell in love was Carpenter. It's a very old band, but if you think about it now, rationally, their lyrics are pretty repetitive, you know, and not too hard. And the melody is really good. So I think songs help me a lot. And then later I started to listen to Michael Jackson and I became crazy about his songs. His song also obviously helped me a lot from listening and pronunciation's perspective. Also, it gives you a passion of learning English, right? Those culture related stuff really help you to be more motivated. And for me, motivation is probably the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Once you love it, you don't feel it's miserable to spend time to learn. You feel it's enjoyable. You're addicted to learning English. So I think the first thing obviously are songs to me, and then
so basically learning songs that you like.
Yes.
That's what's gonna give you motivation
and
right,
passion.
to continue learning.
Exactly. Yeah, I was able to sing like all Carpenter and Michael Jackson song, and that's a skill set, right?
Awesome.
Both language and singing.
What would be your second tip for basic level?
I read a lot of fairy tales. Those are also easy English and very straightforward stories. And then later, I think I start to read books like Jane Austen. Her language is really simple but good. Hemingway is also a very good writer. His wording is also pretty straightforward. So I have a technique when I was pretty young. So you always have a book that you read again and again and again, and you can list all those new words, right? And when you learn those new words in the context, it's very easy for you to learn that.
And what is your third tip?
You have to choose a systematic textbook. What helped me it's a very old one called New Concept of English. Many people learn that grade by grade in China. That's where I'm from. Now I know there's a lot of apps like Duolingo.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that is an advantage for people now in this time, in this era, because the internet has so many free courses and materials, right? So for me, one of the things I will recommend is definitely Duolingo. Duolingo gives you the basic, right, the grammar. Another resource I just found as well was this teacher. Her name is Gaby. She's from Mexico actually, and I think during the pandemic, she started her YouTube channel and she started to teach you from zero.
Yeah.
And I will leave the link on the description. She has some accent, of course, but I think this is going to give you very good foundations of grammar and vocabulary. And I think this could be an excellent resource to complement with the other tips that you mentioned. Also, Google has a tool for pronunciation. I will leave also the link in the description that you can just enter that URL and then you can speak to this webpage. And then Google is gonna tell you if the pronunciation is correct or Google can understand you or not. So now let's talk about intermediate level. When you're in intermediate level, you should have a goal of why you're going to be learning English, right? In this case, most of the cases, especially in our channel, is that you are going to apply to a university. So your goal here is that you learn intermediate level to pass the TOEFL test. So what resources do you think for intermediate level students should use?
So I've learned 3 languages basically. English, Japanese, I'm learning Spanish. And I think if just telling you the experience in one sentence, just to try to create the environment, the language environment surround you. I think intermediate, you're probably ready for Eminem. Listening is like an input. If you try to feed yourself with those input, eventually you can talk, which is your output. So that's the core. I think that's the core tip for me. Like still, the first one should be songs. I mentioned about hip hop. I use that for both Japanese and English and have very good results. Lots of sitcoms, Friends, I watched over 10 times. All the season, just over and over again. But the reason is I love it. So if you don't like it, find a show you like. Sitcom is really good because you can relax, but at the same time, you can learn something. So I never watch a Chinese sitcom because I feel it's a waste of time. But the reason why I watch so many American sitcoms is because I feel I'm taking advantage, I'm learning something.
And I think the important part is also to have the subtitles in English on, so you can follow along
at the beginning.
Well,
yeah, don't be dependent on that.
Yes. And then later on you can just let go of that and then just continue listening to it. Now, going back also to the TOEFL, right? So there are so many resources online. I'm also gonna be leaving the links in the description, and where you can just search for free mock-ups, so you can just start practicing this test. Get used to that because that's super important. And I think one other thing that maybe you can leverage depending on the country that you live. We know, especially in Latin America, there are a lot of tourists, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then so just go ahead and just try to talk to them, right? You can talk to them in English. They can answer back to you in Spanish, so you can help each other. And then other resources that you also have in some countries is that you have also some Christian churches that have missionaries from all around the world. They are also very eager to talk to people, so you can just go and talk to them as well. Those are also really good resources for conversation, especially.
Yeah, that's a very good point. When I was in university, I did a lot of language exchange. Also, don't be shy to speak.
Ahora que ya sabes los recursos para aprender inglés, te invito a ver cómo prepararse para un MBA, una maestría en Estados Unidos.